Today I want to talk about wisdom is our GPS. How many people here have a GPS? Okay, a lot of you. We use it quite a bit, and in our car, we want to go somewhere in San Francisco or south of San Francisco or somewhere up by Napa, or, we use our GPS. A GPS, I want to give a little bit of different meaning to it. GPS, some of you have heard me use this before. I think of our own internal GPS, which is our God positioning system. Now, GPS in a car is a global positioning system, but I like to think of GPS, our own internal sense of knowing the presence of God, is our God positioning system. And that is the source of our wisdom. In Unity, we have 12 powers that we celebrate and develop and allow to grow in our lives. And the power for this month is wisdom. Wisdom is the power to discern. It is the power to decide what is mine to do and how do I apply the knowledge and understanding that I have. How do I show up in the world? What is it that I am here to do? Why am I here? So wisdom is really coming from that place. If we are listening, if we will pay attention to our GPS, it will direct us. Now, sometimes I fight with our car GPS, and my wife laughs at me because I'll sometimes argue with her. She has a female voice. And I'll say, GP, why are you guiding me that way? I can see that it's much shorter just to do this way. And my wife will say, why are you arguing with GP? Just do what you know is right. But I have this argument and I try to figure out, why is she guiding me that way? Anyway, it's just a thing we do. And as ridiculous as that sounds, it's even more ridiculous that a lot of us argue with that deep knowing that we have within, that source of wisdom, that presence of God that lives in us. That we tune it out, we turn it off, we think, that can't be right. We don't listen. In meditation and in prayer, we are aligning with that presence of God that lives within us. You see, in Unity, we believe that God is everywhere fully present. I mean, I didn't grow up in Unity. I grew up in the Church of the Nazarene, and I can remember starting from when I was a very little boy, probably around age 4, I began to comprehend this concept that they were teaching. They said, Timmy, God is everywhere. Everywhere? Everywhere, Timmy. There? Yes, there. At school? Yeah, God is there. Now, they would give it sometimes a little ominous meaning. They would say, so Timmy, you need to be sure to behave because God is watching you. But what didn't come through real clear in that teaching was that if God is everywhere, fully and completely present, that means that God is fully and completely present right here, living as me, living as you. That what you really are is God's stuff. Now, if I go to the ocean here, and I love the ocean, it's a lot colder. The water is colder than in Hawaii, but I still like to get in it. And if I dip some of that water out, what that water is the same as what that water is. That's the ocean. It's the same stuff. You might say, well, but there's a difference in quantity. Or another illustration might be, I love to watch the waves come in. love the waves. And so I love the sound of the surf. I love the feel of the sea breeze on my face as the salt begins to coat my glasses. But I love it. And think of a wave. A wave is an individualized aspect of the ocean. What the ocean is what the wave is. But the wave is an individualized aspect and outpicturing and presentation of the ocean. It's like we are all waves of that ocean, that presence of God. We are all being pressed forward in a unique and beautiful way. And as I look at waves, no single one of them is identical. They're all different. They show up differently. And we show up differently because we are all here to express God in a different and unique way. That's why we look different, we act different, we have different cultures, we have different faith backgrounds, we come from different ethnicities or different colors. But whoever we are that presentation, that outpicturing of all there is in God. As Eric Butterworth says, we are the inlet and the outlet of all there is in God. So, I want us first to know that we can listen and trust this presence that is wanting to express as us, that is wanting to speak within our God positioning system. We can listen. I want us to know that we are not just this body. Really, when you look at it, we're not this body at all. We are the presence of God. Now, I'm going to bring up something here that might be controversial, but I don't know. I never know until I actually do something whether it's going to be controversial or not. Sometimes I think I'm saying something controversial, and people just yawn and say, yeah? And what? I don't know. But, it's not quite as controversial in unity. It might be with some folks. But the founders of the unity movement and those in the early days of the unity movement taught and spoke a lot about reincarnation. Charles Fillmore's books are just full of information and thoughts and teachings about reincarnation. And so that is part of our unity teachings, but no one in unity is obligated to believe that. What we do in unity is we offer things to people to consider, to think about, and I know when I first came into unity, I came from the Church of the Nazarene, right? And as it says in the book of Hebrews, that it's appointed unto man once to die and then the judgment. Woo-hoo. It's funny how some of those scriptures got emphasized. And yet, when I looked at other passages of Scripture, I thought, well, what's that all about? For example, Jesus, meeting with his disciples, said, "Who do men say that I am?" And this is in the Gospels, in the Christian Scriptures. And they said, well, some say that you're Elijah. Or some say that you're Jeremy, the prophet, Jeremiah. Or, they started naming some of these people from the past. Now, when I was going to church growing up, people just skipped over that, but it brought up this question in my mind. Why did people, Jewish people, in the day of Jesus, believe that Jesus was the reappearance of some person who had lived hundreds of years before? Jesus didn't say, "We don't believe in reincarnation." He said, who do you say that I am? So, while it's not directly taught in the scriptures as we have it, in the Christian scriptures, in what is called the canon, those that made the final cut, in the 300s, when, they decided, what books do we want in here? But there are passages that indicate that people at that time did believe in reincarnation. Here's another passage where the disciples came to Jesus, and there was this man who was blind, and he would sit at the temple and he would beg for money. And they came to Jesus and they said, Master, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Now, as a 7-year-old, that raised questions in my mind. And I asked, wait a minute, Sunday school teacher? Yes, Timmy, you have a question? Yes. They're asking who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind. It sounds like they're asking if the man sinned before he was born. Well, Timmy, you don't understand. So, there are those passages that make you go, huh. And sure enough, in the early days of the Christian church, there were a number of Christians who believed in reincarnation. Now, again, when I first came into Unity, that was the least interesting topic for me. Couldn't care less. It's like, what difference does it make? I'm here now. Whatever I was before, if I was anything before, that's gone. What's the point? So I just put that in the pigeonhole of suspended judgment. And I thought, maybe someday I'll come back to that and see if there's anything to that. I don't know. And so I was teaching meditation every week for 12 years at Unity of Wichita. 12 years, every week. Taught different styles of meditation. And sometimes I would go into a very deep state of meditation, which the Fillmores would call the silence, where you're not even aware of your own ego anymore, where you're not even aware of your identity, where you detach from all of that. And I'm in this meditation, and I'm just really, really deep, and I hear this voice, this deep voice, inner voice, which I've learned to recognize as the voice of God. And this voice said, you will now see yourself as you once were. Now, for my wonderful evangelical friends and family, don't turn off the computer just yet. Anyway. So, I hear this clear voice that says, what you once were, you will now see. And boop, up pops this short, dark Indian man. And I knew this had been me. I knew it. And then there were these temples that were behind this Indian man that I had never seen before, even though I've studied about India since I was 4 years old. I grew up in a very conservative evangelical family, but since I was 4, I was drawn to India and have studied about it. Indian food, the hotter the better, is my favorite food. Where's this come from? Anyway, so I see these temples, and I'm like, I've never seen these before in all my studies. After I come out of meditation, I'm like, wow, You know, do I tell the class this? What do I do with that? I just needed to recalibrate, to digest that. And so about 2 weeks later or so, you know, I'm reading this book, and this author, Radhanath Swami, keeps talking about a place called Vrindavan. Vrindavan. I thought, in all my studies, I'm not familiar with Vrindavan. So I go Google, you know, like any good student does. And I put in images of Vrindavan and start seeing different pictures. And like, it's a village of 5,000 temples. Odd that I had never heard of it. Boom. Up pops this picture of the temples that I saw behind the Indian man who was me. I tell my wife, I'm going to India. I want to go by myself. Now, she and I had gone together before on a long pilgrimage. I said, I'm going by myself, and I'm going for about 5 weeks. That brought about some interesting discussions with my wife, but nevertheless, I did go with her blessing, more or less, and did go to that spot. And any of you who ever go to my Facebook page, when you see my profile picture, that is me standing in front of those temples. And the reason I bring this up is to illustrate that what we are is eternal. Whether or not you believe in reincarnation, whether or not you believe this story that I've just shared with you, which I know is true, whether or not any of that the Fillmores taught about reincarnation is important to you, this is the point I really want to get to. What you are, like that wave, is the presence of God. What you are is that presence, that power, that wisdom that God is. You are that. You are particularized, individualized. You are that wave. And because that is true, that is eternal. That is eternal God stuff that you are. You aren't just born and die. I love this song that Deborah sang before the message, you know, about hurrying and going 90 miles an hour. How many of you can relate to that? Oh my goodness. That's just so me, rushing around trying to do so much, and then the more I go, the more behind I feel, you know. And there are times in our lives where hopefully we question it. We question all of that. And we question, is that what I'm here to do? Am I here to just run around in circles? What am I really here to do? Wisdom, as our God positioning system, means allowing what we really are to show up in the world, to show up in our own unique, individualized way, to show up as love, to show up as justice, to show up as understanding, to show up however it is that you bring it forth. I know we have a writers group, wonderful writers group, that's putting together a book, I believe, and putting together writings. That's one way to bring that forth. Or through your art, or through your singing, or through your teaching of children, or teaching of adults, or through singing kirtan, or through your prayer ministry, or through working on automobiles. I know a very, very spiritual brother that, you know, he's studying to work on automobiles, and he's a very, very spiritually evolved person. And I'm thinking, that's cool. That's the kind of person I'd like to work on my car. So when I bring it in, I know he's telling me the truth, right? I mean, how does it show up? It shows up uniquely as you. It shows up uniquely in your own way. But just know that you are this divine presence. You are bringing this forth, and it's always there. Don't get seduced by the Maya, the illusion that we're living in. The presence of God living in you will guide you if you will listen. If you allow yourself to meditate each day, to pray. You know, if you're just starting meditation, you can do it for 5 minutes or so. Just, do some deep breathing and relax. And, people will have all these funny rules like, oh, well, can I drink coffee while I'm meditating? Yes, you can drink coffee while you're meditating. Can I sit on the porch? Yes, you can sit on the porch. Can I walk through nature? Yes, you can do that. Can I listen to music while I'm meditating? Yes. Can I dance while I'm meditating? Yes. I mean, I've taught dance meditation. I've taught all kinds. Whatever works for you, work with the way your mind works. I'll say that again. Work with the way your mind works. The mind needs something to focus on, so give it something to focus on. But allow that presence of God to come forth and guide you. So listen. Listen to that presence. Allow that presence. Learn that what you are really is the presence of God. That's what you're here to bring. You're not just here to be acquisitive. Do you know that word, acquisitive? Acquisitive means to acquire. We're not here just to acquire more and more stuff, like that bumper sticker, the one with the most toys when he dies wins. We're not just here to be acquisitive. We are here to express and experience God. We are here to wake each other up. That's why we exist as Unity and Marin. We are here to help this local congregation, this community, this country, and this world to awaken spiritually into what our true nature is, that we are the presence of God in action. And we are here to work in collaboration with all kinds of groups. We work with different groups through Marin Interfaith Council. We work with other Unity churches and New Thought churches. I'm honored that the first reader from Christian Science is here with us. Judith, thank you for being with us. We are honored to work with people of all kinds. We are here to show up as the presence of God when we stand for justice, when we stand for equity. We are here to be the presence of God. So, here's the choice. Are you going to argue with your inner GPS? Like I argue with my car GPS? It's so fun because she never talks back to me. But are you arguing with that inner presence, that inner GPS? Jesus said in the Gospel of John that when the Spirit of truth comes, you will know all truth because the Spirit will reveal it to you. That Spirit of truth is living in you. It's there in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Indian scriptures. It refers to that presence as the Paramatma, the presence of God living within us. In the Christian scriptures, it talks about the Paraclete. Someone told me recently that they hadn't heard that term before, the Paraclete, which in Greek means the one who walks alongside with us, not only to witness our lives, but to guide us, to comfort us, to be there. The Spirit is the Paraclete. We can listen to this presence of God living itself as us. That's why Jesus said, you will know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Listen to your inner GPS. Please repeat after me. Where I am, God is. I'm listening to my GPS. I'm not arguing with it. I allow God to speak in me. I allow God to act as me. Where I am, God is. And where God is, everything's good. And so it is. Amen. Thank you.